I taught fear where to stand, and wide it held the line behind me. I walked free from a plantation that believed its power lived in whips and chains and armed patrols. I ran errands after dark and discovered that the white men's authority tightened near the slave quarters but dissolved completely near the old burial ground where twisted oaks grew thick and patrols turned back without orders, their boots stopping exactly where whispers began, their lanterns staying close to their bodies, as if the darkness itself had teeth. So I studied that boundary like my life depended on it because it did, and I realized the overseers ruled us with violence they could see, but they were ruled by fear of things they could not see. And fear that lives in the mind is stronger than any fence because it polices itself without guards or locks or constant watching. I let a sound carry from the burial ground that the owl patrols dreaded most. Nothing loud. Just enough to confirm what they already half believed about spirits and shadows and voices that spoke in languages they did not recognize. And I watched their routes change permanently. Watched them create a clear path from the quarters to the woods simply by avoiding what they feared. Then on the darkest night when the moon was barely a sliver, I walked that avoided path at steady pace while fear stood guard behind me, holding the patrols in position exactly where I taught them to stand. This testimony belongs to the Chronicles of Kofi, a living record of truths about how the enslaved navigated systems designed to contain them forever. If you would stand as witness to how belief can be shaped into a weapon against those who think they hold all the power, mark this testimony for preservation, signal your recognition, and speak your judgment below, because what they never understood was this. They built their control on our fear of them. But I learned to build their fear of something else, and the moment their fear became stronger than their authority, the barrier they believed was absolute became a door I could walk through. So I ask you now, when the powerful rule through fear, but fear itself can be taught and directed and turned against them, who truly controls the boundary between captivity and freedom? I run errands after dark, and the night teaches me things. Daylight hides. The plantation spreads wide under moonlight. Fields stretching toward distant trees. Cabins clustered near the big house. Paths worn by feet that move only where permitted. But permission changes when the sun sets. I carry messages between the overseer's office and the kitchen, between the stables and the storage shed. Small tasks, nothing important enough to question why they happen after dusk. But I am not thinking about the errands. I am watching the patrols. I observe how patrols tighten near the quarters, but loosen near the old trees. 2 men walk the perimeter. White man, armed. Their routine should be consistent, thorough, complete, but it is not. Near the slave quarters, they walk close together. Their lanterns swing in tight arcs. Their voices carry. They check doors. They listen for sounds that should not be there. But when they approach the old burial ground at the eastern edge, where twisted oaks grow thick and moss hangs heavy there, pace slows. Their voices quiet. Their lanterns stay closer to their bodies, and they turn back before reaching the trees. No memory comes yet, only the pattern of fear shaping roots. The white man thinks authority is about presence, about being seen, about covering ground and asserting control. In my land, this meant authority was about will, about the courage to go where others would not, about refusing to acknowledge boundaries built by fear. These patrols acknowledge those boundaries. They respect them without speaking their names. I note which paths are avoided without orders, which sections of the plantation receive no oversight once darkness deepens. Night teaches me where authority thins. My hand finds the bronze weight in my pocket. It is still there, warm against my palm, a reminder that I carry more than this body through the world. I hear the overseer boast by daylight and hesitate by dusk. His name is Crawford. He is tall, broad-shouldered. His voice carries across the fields when he gives orders. His whip cracks the air to emphasize his words. During the day, he walks anywhere he pleases, enters any cabin, interrupts any conversation. His authority is absolute and visible. But after sunset, his pattern changes. I observe threats fail once shadows stretch. He will stand at the edge of the quarters and shout warnings, will threaten punishment for anyone found outside after the bell, will promise violence for disobedience, but he does not walk the paths himself. does not venture toward the old trees, does not personally verify that his commands are followed. He sends the patrols, and when the patrols return reporting nothing unusual, he accepts their word without question. The contrast triggers a faint memory of boundaries guarded by stories back home. In my village there was a grove considered sacred. No one entered it after dark, not because of laws or punishments, but because of stories. Stories of spirits who walked there, of ancestors who claimed that ground, of sounds that came from no living throat. The stories were old, repeated, believed, and they worked. The grove remained undisturbed because belief created a barrier stronger than any fence. I keep my pace steady and my eyes open as I move through the plantation at night. I am learning something about the architecture of control, about where it is real and where it is performed. At the edge of the burial ground, I see the patrols slow and turn back. The burial ground is where enslaved people are laid to rest. Unmarked graves, unrecorded names, bodies returned to earth with only whispered prayers. The white man does not maintain this space, does not mark it officially, does not acknowledge it except as a necessary disposal site. But we know where it is. We tend it quietly. We remember who lies there. And apparently, we are not the only ones who know. I observe boots stop where whispers begin. The patrols approach to within 30 yards. Their lanterns illuminate the first trees. The shadows move strangely in that light. The wind through the moss sounds like voices. One man says something to the other, too quiet for me to hear. But I see the other nod, see them both turn, see them choose a different route. The pause recalls elders' warning that belief moves feet before hands. In my village, the elders taught that the strongest barriers were not physical. They were psychological, built in the mind through story and repetition and shared conviction. A man could be strong enough to walk anywhere, but if he believed spirits guarded a path, his feet would not take him there. Believe moved feet before hands could act. I mark the turn with care. Note exactly where they stop, exactly where they choose to go instead. This is knowledge. This is power hidden in pattern. An older man speaks to me softly one evening by the woodpile. His name is Solomon. He has been on this plantation longer than anyone, has survived 3 different owners, has seen things he speaks of only rarely, and only to those he trusts. He tells me of sounds that travel wrong at night near the burial ground. Voices that ain't got bodies, he says quietly. Footsteps that circle, but never approach. Lights that move between the trees but never come close enough to see clear. I observe how a rumor lands heavier than a command. He is not ordering me to stay away, not warning me directly, simply telling me what others have reported, what has been seen or claimed to be seen. But the effect is stronger than any prohibition. The uncertainty is more powerful than any threat. The hint triggers a memory of spirit tales used to shield sacred ground. In my land, certain places were protected not by guards, but by stories. The stories grew over time, accumulated details, became more vivid with each telling. And eventually, the stories became real enough that people acted as if they were true, avoided the places, respected the boundaries. Whether spirits actually walked there became irrelevant. The belief was enough. I listen more than I ask. I let Solomon speak. I absorb what he offers without pressing for more. The white man thinks knowledge is demanded, extracted, forced into the open. In my land, this meant knowledge was offered, shared when the time was right, given to those who demonstrated they could be trusted with it. I test the boundary myself by walking near the trees at the hour bells fade. The plantation bell rings to mark the end of the workday, to signal when enslaved people must return to quarters, to establish the rhythm of controlled time. After the bell, after the patrols begin their routes, I walk toward the burial ground. Not into it, not yet, just near it, close enough to see if pursuit follows. I observe no pursuit. The patrols pass on their usual route. They glance toward the trees. They mutter to each other. But they do not follow me. Do not challenge me. Do not even call out. No memory comes now. Only confirmation of what I suspected. The boundary's real to them. respected by them, enforced by their own fear rather than by any actual barrier. I return before dawn unchanged, before anyone can note my absence or question my movement. But I have learned something vital, something I will carry forward. Daylight brings scolding and bravado the next morning. Crawford stands at the center of the quarters, his voice loud, his posture aggressive. He reminds everyone of the rules, of the consequences for breaking them, of his absolute authority over every aspect of our lives. But I observe fear disguised as discipline. His volume is too loud, his emphasis too strong. He is trying to convince himself as much as us. The display recalls chiefs in my village who shouted to hide doubt. When a leader felt his authority slipping, when he sensed challenge forming, he would become louder, more visible, more insistent on his power. The shouting was not confidence. It was the sound of fear trying to hold its ground. I wait for night, patient, observant, planning. I meet Solomon by the woodpile again after several days of watching and learning. He sees me approach, nods, slightly continues stacking wood, while I help him. We work in silence for several minutes. Then he speaks without looking at me. "You've been walking near the trees." It is not a question. It is acknowledgement. He has noticed. He understands what I am doing. I observe agreement pass without words. The white man thinks conspiracy requires meetings and oaths and explicit planning. In my land, this meant the deepest alliances were formed in silence, through shared understanding, through gestures and looks that carried complete meaning. Solomon and I do not discuss what I plan, do not outline steps or strategies, do not speak aloud what we both know. But the look that passes between us says everything. The look recalls chosen kinship formed under risk. We are allies now, bound by shared knowledge and mutual trust, ready to help each other in ways that require no explanation. We plan nothing aloud. We simply understand, and understanding is enough. I pause that night before continuing this memory, before carrying it forward into action. I sit in the small space I occupy in the quarters. The darkness is complete. The sounds of breathing surround me. Men sleeping or pretending to sleep. I acknowledge the danger of feeding fear. What I am considering is manipulation, using belief against those who believe, weaponizing the stories that already circulate. It is not violence, not theft, not direct confrontation, but it is deliberate, calculated, and if discovered, the consequences would be severe. The white man thinks enslaved people are incapable of such subtlety, incapable of psychological strategy. In my land, this meant we were consistently underestimated in ways that created opportunity. The moonrise becomes the transition, the signal, the beginning. I will not act impulsively, will not rush, will not risk everything on a single moment, but I will begin carefully, precisely, with full understanding of what I am attempting. My hand finds the bronze weight in my pocket. It is still there, grounding me, connecting me to who I was before this place, to who I remain beneath what they see. A punishment is announced the next week that makes staying more dangerous than leaving. A man is accused of stealing food. The evidence is circumstantial, questionable, but Crawford does not care about evidence. He cares about making examples. The man will be whipped publicly, severely, and then sold away from his family as additional punishment. The brutality is designed to terrify, to discourage any thought of resistance or disobedience. But it has the opposite effect on me. I observe urgency, sharpened choices. Stay in here, enduring this, accepting this as permanent. That path leads only to more violence, more separation, more degradation. The other path, the one that leads away from here, becomes more appealing despite its dangers. The crisis triggers a clear memory of elders, shaping belief to redirect harm. In my village, when drought threatened, the elders would not just pray for rain. They would tell stories. Stories of past droughts, of how the spirits responded to certain rituals, of what worked and what failed. The stories shaped how people understood the crisis, directed their actions, gave them frameworks for response. The elders were not manipulating exactly. They were shaping collective belief to serve collective survival. I will do the same, but for a different purpose. I steady my breath, calm my racing heart, focus my mind. I let a sound carry from the burial ground that the owl patrols dread. I do not enter the burial ground itself. I stand at its edge, near the twisted oaks, in the shadows. I make a sound, not loud, not obviously human, something that could be wind, could be an animal, could be something else. I let it echo through the trees, let it drift toward where the patrols walk their route. I observe boots halt at distance. The patrols hear it. They stop. They raise their lanterns. They peer toward the trees, but they do not approach, do not investigate, do not come closer. One says something to the other. They nod. They turn back. The tactic recalls lessons that repetition gives stories, roots. In my village, a story told once was interesting. A story told twice was notable. A story told many times became truth, not because the facts changed, but because repetition created the sense of verification. If many people reported the same thing, it must be heyo. I do not look back. I move away quietly. Return to the quarters before my absence is noted. But I have planted something. A seed. A single data point that confirms what people already half believe. Solomon adds a detail the next evening. Nothing loud. Nothing dramatic. Just a specific observation shared quietly. I heard it too, he says to a small group near the fire. Sound like footsteps circling, but never come in close enough to see clear. I observe how specificity feeds belief. He is not inventing wildly, not creating obvious fiction. He is adding detail that makes the story feel more real. Mori concreti, mori verified. The others nod. Some share their own experiences, their own half-glimpsed shadows, their own unexplained sounds. No memory comes now. Only timing refined through collective action. Solomon and I do not coordinate explicitly, do not plan our statements, but we understand the rhythm, the pattern, the way stories grow when fed carefully. We separate cleanly after the conversation. Do not meet eyes. Do not acknowledge our partnership, but the work continues. The story deepens. The fear spreads. I pass the avoided path again, 2 nights later. Slower this time. More visible. I let the patrols see me at distance. Let them see a figure moving near the trees. Not threatening. Not approaching them. Just present. I observe fear widen the gap. They do not call out. Do not pursue. They simply alter their route more dramatically. Give the burial ground even wider berth. The success echoes village tellies, growing with each telling. In my land, stories about sacred groves would start small. A sound, a shadow, a feeling. But over Chimi, the stories would accumulate, would become more elaborate, would feed on themselves until the grove was considered utterly forbidden. I am watching that same process happen here, in real time, deliberately cultivated. I keep my steps ordinary, my demeanor unchanged. I am simply a man, running errands. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. But I am also an architect, building something invisible but powerful. A barrier made of belief. The white man thinks control requires visibility, requires constant assertion of authority, requires physical presence. In my land, this meant the strongest control was often invisible, was built in minds rather than enforced by hand. I am building that kind of control now, but building it to serve my purposes rather than theirs. Days pass. The pattern repeats. Small sounds, brief sightings, whispered confirmations. Nothing definitive, nothing provable, just enough to maintain the story, to keep it alive, to let it grow. I pass the boundary again at the edge of the burial ground. I walk slowly, deliberately. I observe fear, holding its ground, creating space, opening a path that did not exist before. The patrols have rerouted permanently now. They no longer even attempt to walk near the trees. They have accepted the boundary as real. And in accepting it, they have made it real, have given it power through their own belief. The success echoes lessons from home. about how boundaries form. My father once told me, a fence only works if people believe it works. The wood itself is weak, can be broken, can be climbed. But if people believe the fence marks a real boundary, if they accept its authority, then the fence becomes stronger than its materials. Belief is the strongest fence. I keep my movements measured, my face neutral. I show no satisfaction, no triumph. I am simply a man going about his business. Nothing more. But inside, I am counting, measuring, planning the next phase. Solomon warns me one evening when we are alone. Fear has settled enough, he says quietly. Time is coming. But you gotta choose it careful. I observe his certainty, his understanding of timing. The council recalls timing taught for departures in my village. There was a right time to plant, a right time to harvest, a right time to travel. Moving at the wrong time too early or too late could mean failure, could mean death. Solomon is telling me that time is approaching. The window is opening, but it is not fully open yet. I must watch, must wait, must choose the exact moment. The reckoning nears. I can feel it, can sense it approaching like weather on the horizon. My hand finds the bronze weight in my pocket one more time. It is still there, still warm, still connecting me to home. But I am also carrying something new now, something I have built here through careful observation and deliberate action. I am carrying the knowledge that fear can be taught, can be directed, can be used as a tool. The white man built his power on fear, on making us afraid of him, of his violence, of his authority. But fear is not his alone. Fear belongs to whoever understands it best, and I have learned to understand it, to read it in the patrol's hesitation, to see it in Crawford's exaggerated confidence, to recognize it in the roots that avoid certain spaces. I have learned fear's language, its patterns, its weaknesses. And I am about to use that knowledge. That is when I know the moment is coming. When I understand what I must do, I do not forget. I never forget. The lessons from my village, the stories of boundaries guarded by belief, the knowledge that the strongest barriers are built in minds. I carry all of it with me, use all of it now, and I realize with sudden clarity, I did not just observe fear, I taught it. I taught it where to stand, where to patrol, where to turn back. Daylight rumors bloom without names in the days that follow. I hear them spreading through the quarters, whispered during brief moments between tasks, shared at the well, passed along during meal times. Stories of sounds near the burial ground, of shapes moving between trees, of lights that hover but never approach, of voices that speak in languages no one recognizes. The stories have no single source, no clear origin. They simply exist, circulating, growing, taking on weight through repetition. I observe authority, deny and retreat. Crawford hears the rumors. I see it in the way his jaw tightens when someone mentions the old trees, in the way he dismisses the stories loudly. Superstitious nonsense, he says. His voice carries across the yard. There's nothing out there but trees and dead knee. He catches himself, changes direction. Nothing but graves and shadows. But he does not go there himself to prove it, does not lead the patrols through the burial ground, does not physically demonstrate his authority over that space. He denies with words what his actions confirm. The denial recalls leaders in my village who were cornered by what they would not name. When a chief's decision proved disastrous, he would not acknowledge the mistake directly, would not speak its name, would talk around it, would blame circumstances or bad luck or the ancestors' will. But everyone knew the denial only confirmed what silence would have hidden. Crawford's loud dismissal tells everyone he feels threatened by the stories, that he recognizes their power even as he claims they have none. Night waits, patient, inevitable. And I wait with it. I repeat the sound once more, from the edge of the burial ground. Then, stop. The timing is deliberate, calculated. I let the patrol hear it one final time. Let them report it. Let the story complete one more cycle. Then nothing. I observe silence. Do the rest. The absence becomes as powerful as the presence. The patrols still avoid the area, still give it wide berth, but now they do so in response to memory rather than immediate stimulus. The fear has taken root, has become self-sustaining, no longer needs me to feed it. The restraint mirrors elders' warning not to overwork a story. In my village, storytellers knew when to stop, knew that too much elaboration weakened the tale, that the most powerful stories were the ones that left space for imagination. Let the listener fill in details. Let their own mind create the horror. That was always more effective than explaining everything. I hold back now. Let silence and absence do what sound and presence began. The white man thinks control requires constant assertion, constant visibility, constant reinforcement. In my land, this meant true control was the kind that sustained itself, that lived in minds and shaped behavior, even without external pressure. I have created that. A boundary that polices itself through belief. Patrols reroute permanently around the burial ground. I watch it happen over the course of a week. The routes become established, predictable. The patrols no longer even glance toward the trees as they pass. They have internalized the boundary, accepted it, made it part of their routine. I observe a clear lane open where none existed before. From the quarters to the burial ground, to the woods beyond. A path unmarked but real, created not by cutting but by avoidance. No memory comes now, only opportunity. Only the window opening exactly as Solomon said it would. I prepare quietly, not with possessions. I have almost nothing to take, just the clothes I wear and the bronze weights in my pocket. But I prepare mentally, emotionally. I rehearse the route, the timing, the movements. I speak with Solomon one final time, without speaking directly. We stand near each other at evening, hands busy with small tasks, voices low. He tells me when fear has settled enough, when the moment is right. 3 nights from now, he says quietly, moon will be thin. Patrols will be tired from full days of harvest. They'll walk their route quick and sloppy. I observe his certainty, his precise understanding of patterns and timing. The council recalls timing taught for departures in my village. There was knowledge about when to travel, when the paths were safest, when attention would be elsewhere, when the odds favored movement. Solomon carries that same knowledge, adapted to this place. This system, these specific circumstances, the old road past the burial ground, he continues, ain't been used since they built the new one. Grass grown over it, but it still runs north, still gets you to the river. I nod once. The gesture is enough. We do not embrace, do not wish each other well openly, do not say goodbye, but something passes between us. Some acknowledgement, some shared understanding of what is about to happen. The reckoning nears. I can feel it in my chest, in my breathing, in the way time seems to slow and sharpen. My hand finds the bronze weight in my pocket. It is still there, still grounding me, still connecting me to everything I carry beyond this body. I move along the avoided path. At the darkest hour, 3 nights later, the moon is barely a sliver. Cloud cover obscures even that thin light. The darkness is nearly complete. I walk steadily, not running, not rushing, moving with purpose, but not panic. The path is exactly where Solomon said it would be, worn smooth by years of feet that no longer walk it. Grass growing in patches, but not thick enough to obscure the route entirely. I observe no pursuit, only distance opening behind me. The patrols are on their usual route far from Eri, avoiding the burial ground and the trees and the sounds they believe inhabit that space. The fear I cultivated is holding them in position, keeping them away, creating the opening I need. No memory come, only outcome, only the reality of movement, of progress, of distance accumulated. The woods receive me like an old friend. The trees close around me. The darkness becomes shelter rather than threat. I keep moving steady, focused, following the overgrown road north, Sounds shift behind me but do not follow. I hear voices in the distance, but throw voices. But they are not calling for me, not pursuing. They are simply continuing their routine, walking their established routes, respecting the boundaries they believe are real. I observe fear stand guard for me. The moment recalls elders saying, belief draws lines stronger than fences. In my village, sacred groves were protected not by walls, but by shared conviction, by collective belief that certain spaces must not be violated. Here, I have created the same protection, not around something sacred, but around a path, an escape route. The patrols believe the burial ground and the surrounding area are dangerous, haunted, best avoided, and in believing it, they make it true. They give that belief power. They allow it to shape their behavior, and their shaped behavior creates the opening I walked through now. I keep moving. The night is long. I have hours before dawn. I oozy them. I cross the disused road, where patrols once passed regularly. The road is wider than the path, more defined, but grass grows thick across it now, unbroken by boots or wagon wheels. I observe grass unbroken by recent passage. This confirms what Solomon told me. The road is abandoned, forgotten. The new route runs a mile east. More direct, better maintained. But this old road still exists, still leads north, still connects to the river and the territories beyond. No memory comes now, only relief measured carefully. I do not celebrate, do not allow myself to feel safe. Not yet. Not until I am much farther away. I do not run. Running would be loud, would create disturbance, would risk drawing attention if anyone is near enough to hear. I walk, steady, persistent, eating distance, with patient steps. The white man thinks escape requires speed, requires running until exhaustion, requires dramatic flight. In my land, this meant escape required endurance, required knowing when to move quickly and when to move carefully, required surviving the journey, not just beginning it. I am built for endurance, for careful movement, for survival. Dawn threatens to catch me between spaces. The sky begins to lighten in the east. Gray, creeping into black. The quality of darkness changing. I observe how night releases its hold on the world. I am exposed now in ways I was not during full darkness. My silhouette becomes visible. My movement creates disturbance that light reveals. The lesson returns. Timing finishes. What belief begins? I created the opening with fear. I move through it during darkness. But darkness is temporary. Dawn comes whether I am ready or not. I must find cover before full daylight. Must hide during the dangerous hours. Must wait for another night to continue. I choose cover carefully. A thicket near the road, dense enough to hide me, not so isolated that it draws attention if anyone passes. I settle into it, make myself small, make myself still, and I wait. Morning noise rises elsewhere. In the direction I came from, in the plantation I left behind. I observe attention pulled away toward routine. The bell will ring. Work will begin. Someone will eventually notice I am missing. Crawford will be informed. Decisions will be made about pursuit. But all of that takes time, takes organization, takes overcoming the very fear I'd planted. Will they surge near the burial ground? Will the patrols venture into the space they have been avoiding? Or will they assume I went a different direction? Will they search the usual routes? The expected paths I do not know. Cannot control it from here. Can only wait and hope that belief holds long enough. No memory comes, only survival practiced through stillness. The white man thinks hiding is about finding clever spaces, about outsmarting searchers through superior positioning. In my land, this meant hiding was about becoming nothing, about letting the mind settle so completely that the body follows, about being so still that eyes pass over without seeing. I become nothing. I wait. I breathe slowly. I do not move. Hours pass. The sun climbs. Heat builds. I hear sounds in the distance. Voices. Dogs. Maybe. movement along roads I cannot see. But nothing comes close. Nothing finds this thicket. Nothing disturbs my hiding. I move when ornery sounds return in late afternoon. Birds resume their calls. Insects buzz. The world settles back into its normal rhythms. The searchers if moved on or given up or redirected elsewhere. I emerge carefully. Check the road. See nothing. Hear nothing immediate. I continue north, moving while daylight remains, using the visibility to navigate, planning to find another hiding place before full darkness returns. Distance grows, and the plantation shrinks behind me. Each mile walked is a mile I do not have to walk again. Each hour survived is an hour closer to something resembling safety. I observe fear keep its promise. The fear I cultivated, the stories I fed, the belief I shaped. It held long enough, created the opening wide enough, bought me the time I needed. The cost arrives as separation, not blood. I have not been caught, have not been beaten, have not been killed. I carry no fresh wounds, no new scars, but I carry separation from Solomon, from others I knew, from the only community I had in this place. I will not see them again, will not know their fates, will not share in their lives going forward. That is the price, not paid in pain, but in connections severed. I carry it. Accept it. Move forward with it. The white man thinks cost is measured in violence, in punishment inflicted, in blood spilled. In my land, this meant cost was often measured in what was lost rather than what was taken, in connections broken, in homes left behind, in names that would be forgotten. I carry that cost now. Feel its weight alongside the bronze weight in my pocket. Both are heavy. Both are necessary. Days pass, and stories chase me without feet. I move carefully, avoiding main roads, staying in woods where possible, traveling at night, hiding during day. I survive on what I can find or take. Water from streams, food stolen from fields or storage sheds, rest taken in hidden places, and I hear the stories carried by other travelers, by fugitives who passed through the same area weeks before, by those who help people like me in secret, stories about the haunted plantation, about the burial ground no white man will approach, about the sounds and sights that keep patrols away. I observe how belief lingers longer than orders. Crawford might issue new commands, might demand the patrols search every inch of the plantation, might threaten punishment for cowardice. But belief does not follow orders, does not respond to threats. Belief sustains itself through its own logic, through shared conviction, through stories that confirm what people want to believe. The patrols will continue avoiding that space long after I am gone, perhaps forever. The story has taken root, has become part of the place, and in some small way, that means I am still there, still shaping behavior, still asserting control, even in absence. The memory settles into knowledge that I will carry forward. I remember Solomon teaching me the phrases, the timing, the understanding of how fear operates. I remember the patrols, stopping at the boundary I created, respecting it, without understanding it was created specifically for them to respect. I remember Crawford's denial, his loud dismissal of stories that his actions confirmed he believed. I remember walking the avoided path, moving through the opening, fear held open, escaping while belief stood guard. I do not forget. I never forget. These lessons are mine now, part of what I carry, part of who I am. Weeks later, safe in a community of fugitives and helpers, I pause to complete this account. I sit with others who escaped, who carry their own stories, who survive through their own cunning and courage and luck. We share knowledge, techniques, understanding of how the system works and where its weaknesses lie. I tell them about fear, about how it can be cultivated and directed, about how belief creates boundaries stronger than fences. They listen carefully. Some nod. Some have used similar methods. Some are learning for the first time. The white man thinks power flows from violence, from control of body, from ownership. documented in law. In my land, this meant power was more complex, could flow through many channels, could be seized by those who understood its mechanisms, even when they could not claim its official forms. I paused before ending this account completely, before sealing this memory, before adding it to the archive I carry. I acknowledge what happened on that plantation. What I learned, what I did. They ruled with threats they believed stronger than fear. Crawford's whip, the patrol's weapons, the violence always implied in every order, the punishment promised for every transgression. They believed these threats created absolute control. That fear of them was the fence that kept us contained, but fear proved otherwise. Fear was not their tool alone. Fear belonged to whoever understood it, to whoever could read its patterns, to whoever could direct it. And I learned to direct it. I taught fear where to stand, where to patrol, where to turn back, where the boundaries were that must not be crossed. Not through force, not through confrontation, but through story, through sound, through the careful cultivation of belief. I planted seeds in soil already prepared. The white men already half believed in, already carried superstitions about death and spirits, already feared what they could not see or control. I simply watered those seeds, gave them sunlight, let them grow into something that served my purpose rather than theirs. And when the fear had grown sufficient, when it held its ground with sufficient strength, I walked out while it held the line. The patrols stood at their posts, maintaining the boundary I taught them to maintain, respecting the space I taught them to respect. And I moved through that space, through the opening their fear created, through the path their belief held clear. Not with violence, not with force, not with any weapon but understanding. I understood their fear better than they did, understood how to feed it, how to shape it, how to woozy it, and I walked free because of that understanding. My hand finds the bronze weight in my pocket one final time. It is still there, still warm, still connecting me to home, to my mother, to the world I came from. But I carry more now. I carry the knowledge that systems of control have weaknesses. That authority is not absolute. That power can be redirected by those who understand its mechanisms. I carry the memory of Solomon, of his quiet teaching, of his precise understanding of timing and opportunity. I carry the image of patrols turning back, of Crawford denying what his actions confirmed, of a path held open by belief. I carry the understanding that I am more than what they tried to make me, more than the labor they extracted, more than the property they claimed to own. I am Kofi. I am a student of fear and belief and power. I am a planter of stories and a shaper of boundaries. I am escaped, but I am not finished. I carry this knowledge forward. Will use it again when needed. Will teach it to others who need to understand. Because this is the truth they never wanted us to learn. Their power is not absolute. Their control has cracks. Their authority can be undermined by those who understand it well enough. They ruled with threats, but I taught fear where to stand and where not to follow. And I walked free through the space that teaching created. The system believed fear belonged to them, believed it was a tool only they could wield, believed we would always be paralyzed by it. They were wrong. Fear belongs to whoever understands it best, and I understood it well enough to turn it against them, to make their own weapon into my shield, to make their own fence into my door. I do not forget. I never forget. The bronze weight sits warm in my pocket. The knowledge sits warm in my mind. The memory sits warm in my chest, and I carry all of it forward, into whatever comes next, into the life I will build beyond their reach. I taught fear where to stand, and fear held the line long enough for me to walk away. That is the truth. That is the testimony. That is what I carry, and it endures.